Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome back. As we continue our progress through the medieval period, the Middle Ages, we encounter Dante, who, without question, is one of the most prominent figures for this period, along with Geoffrey Chaucer. And unfortunately, due to the time constraints with the survey class, we are limiting ourselves just to a look into Dante's Inferno, which most people have heard about, right? Dante's Inferno, the journey through hell. What a lot of readers are not familiar with is that this is just the first part of a trilogy. The entire work, which encompasses 3 books, is called the Divine Comedy. And the use of comedy, in this sense, it deals with the classical meaning for comedy. In other words, that we have a happy ending. It's not necessarily meant to be something humorous. Certainly what's happening here is really, nothing funny. So after the Inferno, there is the book entitled Purgatory. And then after Purgatory, there is Paradise. And these 3 different texts are meant to represent the journey that Dante undergoes through hell, purgatory, and then enters into heaven. The works, the Divine Comedy, were so influential that they had a profound way that people thought about the Christian faith during this time. And afterwards, a lot of modern readers believe that the Christian church during this time taught that people could be damned to hell and then travel out of hell and work their way into heaven. And that's false. The church was never teaching that. It's just that the work of Dante became so influential and so many people started to read it that people thought, oh, if I'm damned to hell, then I can just travel, I can work my way out. That's not what the church taught at all. The different Renaissance artists would paint pictures from the Divine Comedy, very, very influential, as well as influencing, writers for hundreds and hundreds of years to come. So, what do we see when we encounter the Inferno? Midway upon the journey of our life. Journey. Here again, journey. This is something that we started with when we were in antiquity, when we were with the Canterbury Pilgrims, right? They're going to that holy, blissful martyr, right? They're on a journey too. We still have one of the key uniting concepts as we move, from the ancient world into the Middle Ages, the idea of the journey, the hero's journey. Midway upon the journey of our life, I found myself within a forest dark, for the straightforward path had been lost. Ah me, how hard a thing it is to say, what was this forest savage, rough, and stern, which in the very thought renews the fear. So bitter is it, death is little more, but of the good to treat, which there I found, speak will I of the other things I saw there. So what is happening here at the start of the Inferno? Well, I'd like to read some really amazing lines here. This is from the book To Hell and Back with Dante by Joseph Gallagher. In the midst of life, you can find that without knowing precisely how, you have lost your bearings or even your sense of meaning. Perhaps you have lost as well some precious relationship. Suddenly you find yourself engulfed in darkness and fearful confusion, or mastered by some destructive habit or emotion. It's hell, right? So this has happened to us all, right? Lost a relationship, we're engulfed in darkness, fearful confusion, we're mastered by a bad habit that we really are having trouble kicking. In a flash, you may glimpse the way out, but something blocks the easy escape. You need a friend or a friendly advisor to guard you a while. What does that sound like, right? Part of the hero's journey, right, is that person who's going to reach out for us, who reached out to help Jesus of Nazareth. It was his cousin, John the Baptist, right? Each one of these heroes that we've encountered, there has been someone to offer assistance. If you are fortunate, some persistent and energizing love for truth, goodness, or beauty will nourish you during the crisis and lead you out of it. In Dante's case, he had to hit bottom and witness the full maturation of the fruits of evil, Inferno. Next, he had to be purified of his own slavery to the roots of evil, Purgatory. Then he would be at last able to rise to the beauty of that delightful mountain, which is the source and cause of all happiness, paradise. So what do we see in our text? We see that Dante, the author, is putting himself in as a character, and he is going through this journey. So when we hear the I, right, that's Dante. That's the author speaking to us. And one of the other common threads that we see with this period literature is didactic. Remember that term, what it refers to? That's when the work is meant to teach a moral or spiritual lesson. And as we see here clearly, right? Clearly, we all go through the journey of life. We all hit these rough patches. We all have to work through them. We all have to be purified before we can finally reach our end goal. We're always going to have someone to offer assistance, right? So what do we see here? We see all of the elements of the hero's journey still here again. We're going to see some things change as we go further into hell with Dante. One of the things that Dante is known for creating is what's called Dantaic irony, and that in the Inferno, the damned are being tortured by that very sin that sent them to hell in the first place, which is really interesting. And this idea, right, that Dante said, "Oh wow, the damned will be tortured by that which on earth they fell prey to in their sinful nature." So then what a lot of people did, again, the influence and the impact of the Divine Comedy, a lot of people thought that, well, that's what the Bible says that hell is. But it does. Bible doesn't really say that much about what hell is. So Dante becomes a cultural touch point, not only for life during the medieval period, but as we continue to move forward, many, many authors, of course, will have read the Divine Comedy, will make allusions to it, just as like Dante is going to be going through and making allusions to many other aspects. Dante had read throughout all these different mythologies. We can find lots of allusions. In addition, Dante, if he had a personal grievance with someone, maybe a ruling family or a family that was very powerful in Italy during this time, and they had rubbed Dante wrong, Dante's going to take members of those family, right, and put somebody in hell as a way to, make them suffer, to get personal repayment, right, to make himself feel a little bit better. If you ever have time to go through and read all of the Inferno or Paradiso and Paradise, I heartily recommend picking up a background reader, just because there's so many holes for us people living in the 21st century that we have lost some of these cultural touch points back into the medieval period. So I hope that you enjoy your journey through the Inferno, and that you as Dante will come out the other side. So until we meet again, always remember to be well, do good work, and keep in touch.